What's going on, everyone? It's your boy, the Fantasy Football Almanac, back at it with my rankings videos. Today we got running backs 21 through 30, so if you're torn between two running backs in those middle type of rounds, this video may help give you some clarity. As always, if you guys do enjoy the video, please go down, leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. You can always change your mind later. Would really help out the channel. With that out of the way, let's hop right in. Let's start with our running back 21, A.J. Dillon. As I just said, my running back 21 is A.J. Dillon. First, let's get into his ratings on Sleeper and Underdog. On Sleeper, he's going off at 59.6 or the running back 25, so pretty low, around where he finished last year. And on Underdog, 59.4 or the running back 21. First, let's start with some of the positives. For one, he loses Davante Adams this season, and oftentimes when production is lost from a really talented wide receiver, it often does go to the running back position. So in this case, A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones both stand to benefit an absolute ton from Davante Adams leaving. But two, he put a very similar production to Aaron Jones last season and is going way later than Aaron Jones. Just for comparison, I'll throw up a graph right now. But A.J. Dillon coming off last season averaging 11 carries, Aaron Jones 11.4. A.J. Dillon 2 receptions a game, where Aaron Jones is 3.5. To me personally, it's not worth it to pay for an extra 1.5 receptions or 2 total touches a game for someone who's going 4 rounds earlier than A.J. Dillon. So I really like A.J. Dillon, because both of them have insane league-winning type upside if the other one goes down. So me personally, I will always take the cheaper option most of the time if they're pretty much splitting touches, and they are in this backfield. Another thing, A.J. Dillon was essentially the running back 10 during the last half of the season, weeks 9 to 18. Aaron Jones did miss 2 games, so we did start to see a little bit of that boom type of potential for A.J. Dillon, but he's pretty much going at his floor right now. He finished last season as the RB23. Right now he's coming off on Sleeper as the RB25, and that's exactly pretty much his floor. He should be in line for more touchdowns with that Davante Adams. Should be in line for more workload. He actually outsnapped Aaron Jones to end the season. Overall, I really like A.J. Dillon. The only thing I'm worried about is Aaron Jones. I mean, there will be weeks where Aaron Jones booms and A.J. Dillon busts. It's just, you got to expect it. But the floor is very safe, and the ceiling is league winning if Aaron Jones goes down. Draft A.J. Dillon. Let's move on to our running back 22. So my running back 22 is Chase Edmonds. I do have him 10 spots ahead of ADP on Sleeper. On Sleeper, he's coming off at pick 83 or the running back 32. And on Underdog, he's coming off at pick 79 or the running back 26. Let me get into why I love Chase Edmonds so much. For one, he's going to be the workhorse running back, but he's being drafted like he's in a committee. Let's start with Sony Michel. Sony Michel, a guy who, sure, he looked good in that Rams offense towards the end of the season, into the playoffs a tiny bit, but on the Patriots, he was awful. He was so bad they let him go. And then the Rams, as soon as they get Cam Akers back from torn Achilles, they say, nope, get out of here, Sony Michel. We don't need you anymore. And Cam Akers outsnapped him pretty much 3-1. Raheem Mostert will steal a bit of touches. I think he will take a tiny bit of touches. But 30-year-old Raheem Mostert on the verge of a career-ending injury, a guy who's one of the few guys I would actually consider injury-prone in the NFL, is not a guy I'm too worried about staying healthy long-term, and also being reliable on a week-to-week basis for fantasy football. So that leaves just Chase Edmonds and Myles Gaskin. They clearly don't like Myles Gaskin. They bring in 3 other running backs while he's here. So that's the first reason why I really like Chase Edmonds. The second reason why I really like Chase Edmonds is he's going to be getting targets. I mean, look last year in the Cardinals offense, this guy was getting targets on targets. He was on pace for 75 targets last season, which would have ranked him 5th behind only Eckler, Najee, Fournette, and Swift. I mean, that's insane. So he's going to get the target volume as Myles Gaskin did last year, putting up 63 targets in the same offense as a worse running back. Also, Tyreek and Jalen Waddle absolutely spread the box. I mean, these are 2 of the fastest wide receivers in the entire NFL. So they got the speed to spread this box. You're not going to be able to stack boxes against Chase Edmonds. I'm projecting this year 250 touches this year, and I think that's pretty conservative of a number. Maybe he hits that, I'll finish as the top 10 running back. Almost guaranteed. I think he has high-end RB2 potential, and he's going as a low-end RB3. I would gladly take him. The only cons I have with Chase Edmonds is that he hasn't never really been that dude for a full season, but whenever he gets the opportunity, he absolutely feasts. Whenever he's given 20 carries, this guy's a baller. So I'm not too worried. Take Chase Edmonds and run. One of the biggest deals in the entire draft right now. On sleeper, on underdog, I don't care. It doesn't matter. He's a sleeper. Go get him. J.K. Dobbins is my RB23 for this season. J.K. Dobbins, a guy I like. I wanted to like him more, but I actually have him ranked a little bit lower than consensus this year. On sleeper, he's coming off at an ADP of 51 or the RB22, and on underdog, he's coming off at 58 or the RB20. So first, let's start with the positives. One, he's really, really talented. I mean, we've seen this guy average at least 5 yards a carry every single. He averaged 6 yards this season. His rookie year, I mean, that's just freaking crazy. Not only that, but he's got the draft capital. I mean, they drafted him in the second round, pick 55. So the Ravens obviously really, really like him as a player. Last season, to end the season, weeks 11 through 17, he ended as the running back's 8 on a points per game basis. That's really, really good. A really strong finish for a rookie. Right when it looked like he was about to come in for his sophomore year, make his sophomore year bump, he played 90% of the first team snaps with the Ravens, and then unfortunately goes down with a torn ACL. That's ultimately why I am a little scared of J.K. Dobbins. I think to begin the season, you're going to see more of a committee approach, a lot of Mike Davis, which is really unfortunate, and it may take him some time to get back fully into this offense, to get fully integrated again. I mean, we've seen it a lot with running backs who take some time to really get back into the offense. They're probably going to want to adjust him. The only other thing for J.K. Dobbins is that he is operating in a run-first offense. I mean, this is an offense with John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson. These guys are going to be running it down your throats. They do have a good O-line, ranked 17th by PFF. So they're going to be running it down your throats. J.K. Dobbins is going to be the beneficiary of a ton of that. But I am a little concerned about the torn ACL, and that's why I do have him a little bit lower than consensus. But now let's move on to my running back 24. My running back 24 for this season is Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell coming off on sleeper right now, an ADP of 55 or the running back 24. And on underdog, he's coming off at 68.2 or the running back 23. So I'm pretty much right in line with consensus on Elijah Mitchell. First, let's start with the positives. Elijah Mitchell can freaking take a ball to the house. I mean, this guy's speed is absolutely insane. And he's running alongside one of the best O-lines in the entire NFL. So they open up massive holes for this guy just to tear through and give you a 6-yard touchdown. I mean, that's the type of upside that can win you weeks sometimes. I think it's really, really strong for the bull case of Elijah Mitchell. Secondly, he's going pretty much near his floor. I mean, in 12 games last season, he was the running back 25. So if he plays a full 17 games and they use him like they used him last season, he should exceed that total. I mean, he should probably realistically be finishing as a high-end RB2. But I do have a couple of problems with Elijah Mitchell, some concerns. Realistically, for one, Elijah Mitchell is coming in with a new quarterback, and this wouldn't really worry me, but the new quarterback is Trey Lance. This is a guy who's going to be stealing tons of rushing opportunities in the end zone and just regularly. You also have Deebo Samuel, a guy who's going to be getting the ball a ton in the rushing game, which should take away a little bit from Elijah Mitchell. Two, he's not going to be utilized in the receiving game. No 49ers running back ever really is utilized in the running game or receiving game for one. And two, you got Trey Lance who's going to be running the ball instead of dumping it off to his RB because that's what he can do. And three, the 49ers backfield has been sketchy for way too long. I mean, way too long. When was the last time you had a consistent RB coming out week in and week out and actually giving you consistent showings from this 49ers offense? I mean, Elijah Mitchell, yes, he did, but suffered injuries. Then it was maybe Jeff Wilson, maybe Trey Sermon. We had no idea. This 49ers offense is so hard to predict. So I am a tiny bit off of Elijah Mitchell. I do have him as my RB24, but I do feel like he's a guy I am a little nervous about for this season. But I still do like his overall upside and his ability to take up balls to the house. So I do have him as my RB24. Let's move on to my RB25 though. Alright, so my running back 25 is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Might be a tiny bit high for some people. Right now on Sleeper, he's coming off as the running back 28 and an ADP of 83. And on Underdog, he's coming off at 82.3, so pretty much right in line with Sleeper, but as the RB26, so I am a little bit higher on Clyde as the RB25. First, we'll start with the positives. He's got Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes automatically opens up a pretty huge ceiling for all these running backs. I mean, you can't stack the box against Clyde when you got Mahomes and Travis Kelce and all these other type of receivers. Juju, I mean, you just can't do it. So Clyde will have open space to run freely. Second, he was drafted in the first round. Sure, he was the last pick of the first round, but that's still first round draft capital. And he's just 23 years old, so he's still very young. Still can live up to this potential of him being drafted in the first round. And he looked pretty okay in his rookie season. I mean, not to say he looked great. He was definitely disappointing. But he was a high-end running back too, finishing as the running back 16 in 2020 whenever he played. So, I mean, that's not terrible for a guy going this late. And also, he's been receiving tons and tons of training camp buzz this offseason. The only problems with Clyde is that, yeah, he's been receiving a ton of buzz. But who else has been receiving a ton of buzz? Jerick McKinnon, Isaiah Pacheco. These are guys both behind him that should figure to steal some volume, which is why I am pretty concerned. And also, we saw Clyde last year get injured and then come back and pretty much lose all of his volume to Jerick McKinnon. I mean, Jerick McKinnon pretty much took everything. I think a lot of that does come down to the injury itself, and Clyde did not look nearly as good when he came back because of the injury. But there still is definitely causes for concern. Me personally, when I draft, I like to swing for the fences. I'm the type of guy who values upside, type of ceiling, over a floor and consistency. So that's why I do have Clyde as high as I do. I think Clyde is a swing for the fences type play, and if he pans out, could easily win your league. That's why I do have Clyde here. Let's move on to my running back 26, though. My wide receiver 26, a guy I think is going a bit too high this year, is Josh Jacobs. On Sleeper, I think he's gone way too high right now. He's coming off as the RB21 at an ADP of 46. On an Underdog, a little bit closer in line with my estimates, coming up at 79, and he's the RB25. So let's start with some of the positives. First and foremost, he's one of the most consistent running backs, never finished lower than the RB14 on a season. So you know what you're getting out of Josh Jacobs. Pretty much you know what you're getting. It's going to be consistency, lots of volume, except you don't. I'll get into that in just a minute. But second, Davante Adams should space the floor. I mean, Josh Jacobs will be seeing less stack boxes with Davante Adams, Darren Waller, and Hunter Renfrow. I mean, that's just a fact. This offense is too good for you to stack the box on Josh Jacobs. And last year, he actually got a really pretty fair amount of receiving work in this offense, which is surprising because he never has before. He's definitely capable as a pass catcher, but they didn't really ever let him have the rock in the receiving game under Gruden. They just didn't. It wasn't really their thing. Then they fire Gruden, and he starts getting the ball a ton in the receiving game. But all of these things that are strengths, I think also are weaknesses, honestly, in a way. For one, they bring in Bolden, they bring in Amir Abdullah. These guys both had 50 targets last season. They're bringing these guys in this year as pass catchers. Obviously, they don't trust Josh Jacobs in the receiving game. Otherwise, they wouldn't bring these guys in. Also, they bring in Zamir White as well, a pure rusher, a guy who's pretty much never getting the ball in the receiving game. So you bring in guys who can replace Josh Jacobs on both fronts here, and it looks like an insane running back by committee. Josh Jacobs will still be the number one back in this backfield, most likely. I imagine they're not going to all-out replace him, but they pretty much have every single role covered, so Josh Jacobs won't be getting 300 touches this season, which will lower his overall average consistency, and why I'm a little concerned on Josh Jacobs. I think right now he's only going as high as he is because of name value and previous consistency. I mean, he definitely is consistent, but right now I would not take him at his current ADP. I just can't trust a guy who doesn't look to have the passing role and doesn't look to have every single rushing opportunity in his offense. So that's why I'm off of Josh Jacobs. Let's move on to my running back 27, though. My running back 27 is Tony Pollard for this season. Right now, Tony Pollard on Sleeper is coming off at 81.6 or the running back 31. On Underdog, he's coming off at 79.4 or the running back 27. Tony Pollard is a guy I do like a little bit more than consensus, and let's get into why. For one, he's getting snaps at slot wide receiver this season. I mean, that raises his floor as a running back, that raises his ceiling as a running back. No matter what, getting snaps at slot wide receiver, even if he's getting, let's say, 2 receptions a game, 3 targets a game at slot wide receiver, that is massive for a guy going this late. So that's the first reason why I really like Tony Pollard. 2, he looked really, really good last season. I mean, 5.3 yards per carry on 130 carries. That's pretty good. So he's very, very efficient. And he also had 46 targets. 46 targets is really, really good for a backup. It wasn't as much as Zeke, but you figure that should go up now that Amari Cooper is out of this offense, he should see a little bit higher of a target volume, especially, again, with his work in the slot. Also, Zeke has a ton of tread on his tires right now. I mean, he hasn't really missed a game in his career aside from suspension, but it's the NFL. Running backs get injured all the time. If Zeke were to go down, or old age finally catches up to him, and all the touches he's had in the NFL finally catch up to him, Tony Pollard ascends to become an automatic RB1 in this offense, in an insane offense. I do have a couple of cons, though. For one, Tyron Smith going down is huge, honestly. Like, that definitely lowers Tony Pollard's efficiency. It will lower Zeke's efficiency, and I am a little bit more wary of both of these players because of that. And he does have a lower ceiling with Zeke in this offense. But that's really about it for Tony Pollard. Let's move on to my running back 28. My running back 28 for this season is Kareem Hunt. On Sleeper is currently coming off the board at 77, or the running back 29. On Underdog, he's coming off at 95.8, or the running back 33. Let's start with some of the positives. For one, Kareem Hunt is absurdly talented. Just go back and look at his rookie year. If you want to see just how talented this guy is, I mean, he finishes the RB3 and then gets suspended next year and finishes the RB8 despite missing 5 games. I mean, this guy is really, really talented. Then comes over to Cleveland. And with Nick Chubb on the roster for 12 games and playing 12 games, Kareem Hunt doesn't care. He still finishes as the RB10. So this guy can put up numbers. Even just last year, before Kareem got hurt, I know it's a small sample size, but weeks 1 through 7, he was the running back 13, putting up 15.7 points a game. That's pretty good. I mean, really, really good for a running back, a guy you're getting as a running back 3. I mean, that's insane. I have no idea why he's going so low. I even think I should have him higher personally. But the reason why he's going as low as this is because he did suffer an injury last year, and people kind of just forget. You know, you're a backup running back who suffered an injury. People forget about you. That's pretty much just how it goes. That's how the NFL is. He's also in a really, really good situation, and I don't think it matters whether it's Brissett or Watson. For one, he's got the second best O-line in the NFL, but what I mean by Brissett and Watson, the difference, Brissett, they're going to be running the ball so much with Brissett. I mean, how are they going to be confident passing the ball with Jacoby Brissett? So they're going to be absolutely pounding the ball with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. And Kareem Hunt figures to benefit, 1 as a rusher, but 2 as a receiver with Jacoby Brissett. And then, once Deshaun Watson comes back, I think Kareem Hunt's efficiency will go up a ton. I think his volume will go down a bit, but his efficiency is going to go up with Deshaun Watson. So either way, I look at this as pretty much net neutral. I mean, maybe he'll be a bit better with Deshaun Watson, but I don't look at Brissett as much of a negative as other people probably do. The only knock you have on Hunt is that he's behind Chubb. And if Chubb goes down, Kareem Hunt's going to be a pretty dang good RB1. So I really like Kareem Hunt this season. I would take him ahead of ADP, but let's move on to running back 29. James Cook is my running back 29, currently coming off on Sleeper at exactly pick 100, actually, which is pretty funny, or the RB 37, on Underdog 104.4, or the running back 35. Let's get into some of the positives. First, he played at Georgia. He's got good draft capital going in the second round and playing for Georgia. I mean, you got to be a pretty good player to do both of those things. James Cook did that. 2, he's a pass down specialist. I mean, this is going to be a guy who's getting all the passing downs in an offense that passes an absolute ton. I mean, the Bills had the 5th highest passing volume last season, and that's a number that should stay the same or go up with Josh Allen in this offense, and they're going to be running so many plays. James Cook will be involved in a ton of them. Also, the Josh Allen effect. I mean, Josh Allen's just such a good quarterback. If you're drafting a guy, why not take him in one of the best offenses in the entire league? So I really do like James Cook. There are some concerns, though. For one, this running back depth chart is pretty murky as of right now. We don't know if Singletary is going to be the RB1. Zach Moss could figure to get some carries in there. And obviously, James Cook, we don't know exactly what it's going to be like. But I'm taking a bet on the rookie that they brought in the second round, considering they went out there and they wanted to sign Chase Edmonds. They offered Chase Edmonds the bag. Chase Edmonds went elsewhere. They wanted J.D. McKissick. J.D. McKissick was on the roster. And the J.D. McKissick going back to the Commanders. I mean, in my opinion, the Bills want a running back. They've spoken through their actions. James Cook is that running back. He might not ascend right away. You might have to be waiting for him on your bench for a little while. But when he does ascend, you're going to look like a freaking genius. That's why I like James Cook ahead of ADP, but let's move on to my running back 30. My running back 30 for this season, it's probably not who you think it is. I imagine a lot of you are thinking Dameon Pierce. He's actually my running back 31, so in the next video, I'll cover exactly how I feel about Dameon Pierce. I do think he was being undervalued, just to touch on him very briefly. I do think he was being undervalued at a point. Now he's being ridiculously, it's crazy how much he's surging up. Yeah, it makes sense. There is no more Marlon Mack. I think it will be a much better situation for him, but you're asking for the premier rusher from the Houston Texans. I mean, I still don't think that's all that great of a job. I don't. I mean, they should project to be a little bit better. But anyways, let's get into my running back 30, which is Rhamondre Stevenson. Rhamondre Stevenson on sleeper right now, coming off at 97 or the RB36 right before James Cook. On Underdog, he's coming off at 85 or the RB29. So I'm more in line again with Underdog, as I feel like I usually am. But for one, he profiles to be an insane pass catcher this season. There's been tons of training camp hype that Rhamondre Stevenson is going to be the pass catcher, especially with James White gone now, Ty Montgomery dealing with injury. There's a lot of things pointing to the fact that Rhamondre Stevenson should be the pass catcher in this offense. 2, Rhamondre Stevenson was dominant when Damien Harris missed time. He only missed a couple games, sure. But Rhamondre Stevenson filled in to a T, did not miss a beat. He was the only running back pretty much involved in that offense when Damien Harris missed time. So I think in that sense, Rhamondre Stevenson's really great as a handcuff, definitely one of the best handcuffs. But now on Underdog, he's going ahead of Damien Harris. On Sleeper, still way behind. So on Sleeper, I think he's much more of a value than Underdog. And also, the Patriots have been traditionally a run-first offense. I mean, these past 2 years, they've looked to run the ball an absolute ton. Now, they've run the ball almost more than any other team. They love running the ball with Damien Harris. They love running it with Rhamondre. There's tons to go around, and especially Mac Jones. I mean, he's the prototypical pocket passer who will check down to his running backs, and that figures to be Rhamondre Stevenson. The only con is Damien Harris, but that's not that bad. I mean, it stinks. It lowers his ceiling, of course. But if Damien Harris goes down, like a ton of these other backs, I mean, Rhamondre Stevenson's ceiling is absolutely insane. But that's going to be it from me. Thank you guys so much for watching. It really, really does mean the world to me. Love you guys so much. If you guys do enjoy the video, please go down, leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. You can always change your mind later. Turn that notification bell on so you can absolutely dominate your league mates. I don't want this year's fantasy football to be close for any of my subscribers. Easily first place for all you guys. But that's it from me. Hope you guys have a good day, a good night, and a good life.